What's up, everybody? My name is Ryan, and this is the Kingsman Report. It's the news everyone ignores. I'm going to get into this news here in a minute, but I'm going to play this intro real quick, and then we'll get into it. I'm going to talk about alien microfossils, a little bit more about Amazon, their government contracts that they're bidding for with Microsoft and Amazon. They're making government bids. Bezos already has a contract with the Central Intelligence Agency, if you guys didn't know that. And he's upset because of Microsoft's bid, and I believe they won. So we're looking at that. Then some of their new tech that's coming out, and then a new feature that Google is releasing. It's an RCS messaging system for the Android phones. And then I'm going to talk about, and this is my opinion, okay, this is just my perspective, but could Bitcoin be the one world currency? And I talked about this with a friend of mine, and I mentioned that our currency where it sits now isn't backed by anything. I mean, it has strength because of the oil. All the oil in the world, the majority of all the oil in the world is sold and with the U.S. dollar. So we're actually given strength because of that commodity for our dollar. But since we don't actually have gold reserves anymore, since the gold run on the banks and all that stuff that happened under Nixon, and so where are they going to go next? In my opinion, and you can look some of this stuff up. A lot of people say it's controversy, and some of these Bitcoin heads will be, on me for this. But something that big, that's decentralized, isn't going to be decentralized or that big without the government having their hand in it. Some way, somehow, whether they're buying lots of it, hoarding it, whatever it is, they're not going to let you create something like that decentralized away from their currency. So this article will kind of go into a little bit of debt issues with that, and then it talks about Bitcoin. So we have a promissory note, no gold backing. So let's just flip the script on everybody, and let's have this imaginary cryptocurrency to back our promissory notes, that it all can be tracked, logged, checks and balances, all in the blockchain. Everything's tracked. So I'll get into all that. So I'm going to play this intro, and then I will be right back. So this is what we're going to talk about here. A little bit about this new Amazon eyewear that's coming out. It's like the, I guess the smart glasses 2.0. They came out with Google Glass, and it wasn't really necessarily a hit. The technology was, I think it was ahead of its time. People just weren't ready for it. So we've got all these other ones coming out. I talked a little bit about it last night, but I was so scrambled with everything going on. My mother-in-law had surgery, and my wife is here. It's actually our anniversary today, as a matter of fact. So happy anniversary if you're watching, babe. So I'm going to talk about the eyewear, the new messaging system. It's supposed to be more covert, kind of like the peer-to-peer messaging that's in the iPhone is, I guess, what they're kind of trying to go towards there. I'm going to talk about, my perspective of Bitcoin and how that could be a one world currency, since it's one of the fastest traded cryptocurrencies in the world right now. I personally, kind of dabble in it as a hobby, but not, I'm not like one of these, gurus about it, but I kind of know how it works. It's something I pay attention to. Excuse me. I just ate Chick-fil-A, and no, I didn't have to beat anybody up for a sandwich. And then, so Bitcoin, and then, government contracts with corporations. I talked about this yesterday, and it seems like anytime I talk about something, lo and behold, we have corporations. One of the major guys, one of the richest guys in the world that owns a corporation that's, kind of mad at his competitor for landing the contract with the government's cloud system. So I'm going to talk about all those different types of things. And the first one, you see the alien. And my whole deal about the alien invasion is you got to look into Wernher von Braun and his quotes on the fake alien invasion. And it's basically how they create order out of chaos, illusions to kind of keep us in fear of not only one another, but outside entities or governmental factions or terrorist factions or whatever you want to call it, in order to kind of make us dependent upon them. So, to me, honestly, that's a fallen angel, a demonic entity. You wonder where we get the technology that we have. Read the book of Enoch. I tell people that all the time. Well, how would we come up with all this stuff? Well, maybe there's spirits that drive us in a realm that we can't see, this dark matter that scientists at CERN and places want to mess with. And maybe they're the ones that are giving this enlightenment. But it's definitely worth a read if you ever get a chance. Read the book of Enoch. There is a reason why it was taken out of the scriptures. So, that's why the picture of that character is on there. So I'll talk about that, and yeah, I guess we can go ahead and get into it. So, this first article is NASA's Life Hunting Mars 2020 rover will search for alien microfossils. So this is like a huge, I guess, everyone's obsession with, outer space or aliens or whatever you want to call it. Everyone's got this obsession with these things, and maybe those obsessions, just come from the whole movie thing. But to me, this is a movie in a fantasy type thing here. But just kind of keep us distracted, I think, and looking, the other direction. But so this article says, if life once existed in Jezero crater, signs of it may well persist there to this day. So there's the picture of the crater. It says lighter colors represent higher elevation in this image of Jezero crater on Mars, the landing site for NASA's Mars 2020 mission. The oval indicates the landing ellipse where the rover will be touching down on Mars. Let me adjust this real quick. It says life hunting grounds could be pretty rich for NASA's next Mars rover. Jezero crater, the 28-mile wide, 48-kilometer hole in the ground that the Mars 2020 rover will begin exploring in February 2021, has ample deposits of minerals that are good at preserving microfossils here on Earth. 2 new studies have found. It says one of these minerals is hydrated silica. After poring over data gathered by the Compact Reconnaissance Imaging Spectrometer for Mars, or CRISM, instrument aboard NASA's Mars Renaissance orbiter, a team of researchers identified 2 Jezero outcrops that are rich in the stuff. Jesse Tarnas and colleagues reported this month in the journal Geophysical Research Letters. So, here's a little video of the rover there. Yeah, you can kind of see how it's built there. I'm not going to play any of the sound or anything like that, but they're going hardcore on the copyright infringements just for playing a minor clip. Maybe for even having that logo on there. I don't know. Let me close this out. It says we know from Earth that this mineral phase is exceptional at preserving microfossils and other biosignatures, so that makes these outcrops exciting targets for the rover to explore. Tarnas, a PhD student in planetary science at Brown University, said in a statement, just like the 96-mile wide, the 154-kilometer Gale crater, which NASA's Curiosity Mars rover has been exploring since August 2012, Jezero apparently hosted a lake in the ancient past. Orbital imagery has also revealed the remnants of a large delta in Jezero, which marks where a river drained into the lake. Deltas are good areas to search for signs of life because these regions concentrate deposits from all over the river system. Indeed, the presence of a delta is one of the reasons NASA chose Jezero as the Mars 2020 landing site. One of those newfound hydrated silica outcrops lies at the edge of the Jezero Delta at a low elevation. Tarnas and his team found. If the minerals formed where they now lie, which is no guarantee since the material could have been washed in from far away, they might represent the delta's lowest layer. The material that forms the bottom layer of the delta is sometimes the most productive in terms of preserving biosignatures, co-author Jack Mustard, a professor of Earth, Environmental, and Planetary Sciences at Brown, and professor of Environmental Studies there as well, said in the same statement. So if you find that bottom set layer, and that layer has a lot of silica in it, that's a double bonus. There's another video there. It says, in the other new study, which was published online Monday, November 11th, in the journal Icarus, a different team of researchers used CRISM data to identify a bathtub ring of carbonate minerals in Jezero. Here on Earth, organisms use carbonates minerals that contain the carbonate ion CO3 to build sturdy structures that can survive for billions of years in fossil form seashells. Seashells, for example, are made of calcium carbonate. CRISM spotted carbonates here years ago, but we only recently noticed how concentrated they are right where a lake shore could be. Study lead author Brian E. Horgan, an assistant professor of planetary science at Purdue University in Indiana, said in a different statement. We're going to encounter carbonate deposits in many locations throughout the mission, but the bathtub ring will be one of the most exciting places to visit, Horgan said. Again, the carbonate's history is unclear. It's unknown when they found, but the Mars 2020 team is excited by the prospect that the carbonates were deposited when water sloshed in Jezero crater. So this goes on more into it. I'll post this in the description on the video, and you can look into it. But so they're going to look for microfossils, basically, is what they're going to be looking for there. But my phone is blowing up. Anyways, so the next article I was going to get into says Amazon cites unmistakable bias in Microsoft military cloud contract win. So I think yeah, I mean it'll go into a little bit here, but I know Bezos does have government contracts. He owns the Washington Post. You know, he's embedded in there, and I think he sits on a board at the Pentagon as well. So he's influential in what he does. You know, not only being wealthy, but it says the deal could be worth up to $10 billion. Oracle and IBM are removed from the competition earlier this year, and last month Amazon was knocked out. President Trump often criticized Amazon and its CEO Jeff Bezos, who also owns the Washington Post. It says the Pentagon announced in August that Defense Secretary Mark Esper would review the JEDI deal after Trump said he had received complaints from companies about the process. There's a picture of old Bezos there. It says Amazon said Thursday it has filed a notice in the U.S. Court of Federal Claims indicating a plan to protest the Pentagon's decision to give Microsoft a multi-billion-dollar contract for cloud computing services. The Pentagon said October 25th that Microsoft had won the contract, which could span 10 years and be worth up to $10 billion. It was originally due to be awarded this year, the Wall Street Journal reported on Amazon's protest plans earlier on Thursday. Amazon and its founder and CEO Jeff Bezos is a frequent target of President Trump. It says the contract amounts to a major win for Microsoft under CEO Satya Nadella, who has made cloud services a higher priority. For Amazon, it would be smaller. Its Amazon Web Services division had $9 billion in revenue in the most recent quarter. Numerous aspects of the JEDI evaluation process contain clear deficiencies, errors, and unmistakable bias, and it's important that these matters be examined and rectified, Amazon told CNBC in an email. Pentagon officials said it would not speculate on potential litigation. Microsoft didn't immediately respond for a request for the comment. It says the Pentagon announced in August that Esper would review the deal after Trump said he had received complaints from companies about the process. Trump said in July that the companies conveyed that the specifications of the contract favored Amazon, according to Bloomberg. It says, I never had something where more people were complaining, Trump said last month at the White House. Some of the greatest companies in the world are complaining about it, he added, naming Microsoft, Oracle, and IBM. Trump often criticizes Amazon and Bezos, who also owns the Washington Post. The president, without citing evidence, has accused the Post of making up stories about him. So it just goes into a little bit of beef there. You know, the wealthy tend to want to, I guess, get every dollar out there. So, I mean, the guy has enough money. So, I mean, I don't It's whatever. Hey, my phone, man. It's like non-stop. Uh-oh. Anyways, so this next article, you know, I kind of mentioned, you know, people might you know, call me a conspiracy theorist for this, or whatever. But to me it makes sense. If we're supposed to have, you know, a one world currency, and you know, some people argue and say, well, that could be the dollar because it's, you know, it's accepted everywhere, and it's controlled by our Federal Reserve here in this country, so that, you know, we have pretty much the strongest monetary system, or promissory note, or whatever you want to call it, in the world. So I mean, it's evident that, you know, there is some power there according to, you know, money or whatever. But as far as, you know, trading Bitcoin, you can do a transaction that quick. 5 seconds. If I to send you some Bitcoin, it's that fast. You pay a transaction fee, it's tracked, it's logged, everything is put on the blockchain, and that way, if there's any discrepancies in the transaction, the people that, you know, track this stuff can go in and they can find it. It's just, you know, you're given a hash rate number, they can go in there and they can check the transactions. It's a whole deal. But it would only make sense to me that if we don't have gold to back our current currency, then we're going to need something else sooner or later. And to me, that sooner or later is cryptocurrency. You know, it kind of came out of nowhere, and now, you know, in order to sell it or trade it for you know, a tangible promissory note, that transaction has to be filed on your tax returns as, you know, you selling a product. Like if I were to sell you this pen, then I would have to log this. Well, I sold this pen, this is how much I sold it for. Same with Bitcoin now. You're selling it as a service, or you're selling it as an item. So they're pretty much in there weaseling away. They say they want to get control of it so that it doesn't lead to people, you know, laundering money, avoiding taxes, and, you know, they have their other reasons to do what they're doing. But this just came to mind. So I mean, it could be a possibility. Who knows? But this is just a thought. So it says, got Bitcoin. U.S. Fed warns national debt growth is not sustainable. It says, the head of the United States Federal Reserve has admitted current economic policy is not sustainable, but that is not its job to fix. Speaking during testimony before Congress Joint Economic Committee on November 13, Jerome Powell noted that currently U.S. national debt is growing faster than nominal GDP. Powell solving debt spiral not up to the Fed. It says ultimately, in the long run, that's not a sustainable place to be, said Powell. He continued on by saying, how to fix that? It's easy to say that. How do you do that? And when do you do that is an issue that is up to you and not to us. As Cointelegraph reported, the U.S. debt is now topped $23 trillion, around $70,000 per head of the population, for more than 1 million for each Bitcoin that will ever exist. So, or more than $1 million for each Bitcoin that will ever exist. On the night of November 14th alone, the Fed distributed funds to banks worth 12.7 million Bitcoins, while its balance sheet is expanding towards 4 trillion. For Powell, however, resolving the debt crisis simply means making growth beat debt, and even failure to do so would not equal chaos. It would be remiss in not pointing out that the consequences of not addressing it is just that. Our kids and grandkids will be spending their tax dollars servicing debt rather than the things they really need, he continued. Says the president wants negative interest rates, and the comments came as the U.S. President Donald Trump renewed calls for negative interest rates, effectively charging savers to store fiat currency, and criticized the Fed for not introducing them. Remember, we are competing with nations who openly cut interest rates, so that now many are actually getting paid when they pay off their loan. Whoever heard of such a thing? Give me some of that. Give me some of that money, he said in a speech to Economic Club of New York. It says debt-driven economic policy and its consequences are the main motivation behind Bitcoin, which appeared after the 2008 economic crisis. As hard money will, with a deflationary supply impossible to manipulate, Bitcoin is increasingly compared to gold as a hedge against the constant erosion in the value of fiat currencies. So this is what I'm saying. You know, it does, if you look over here on the screen, you know, it does fluctuate. I watch these markets. It does fluctuate. I think whenever I got into it, it was $10,000 per coin. I don't have anything near that, or even a drop in a hat to that. But I mean, I would, you know, this could be the one world currency. That's just me speculating and spitballing, but you know, stranger things have happened. It's already in place. People are already trading it. It's already on a world stage. It's everywhere. I could you know, make a purchase from, you know, the other side of the world in 5 seconds with their wallet, and just scan it through a camera. So if their video if we're having a video of, say, a Skype conversation, he shows me his wallet QR code, and we were gonna make a transaction. I could take a picture of his wallet, his QR code. Transactions done in 5 seconds, and then it's all that is logged on the blockchain, and the checks and balances are there. So if there's anything that happens along that transaction after the fees and all that, or he doesn't get his money or Bitcoin or whatever, then it can be disputed and it's easily tracked. So not a lot of fraud. I mean, there is some shady stuff that goes on behind the scenes of trading Bitcoin, you know, they're not illegal transactions, but illegal activities involving illegal transactions, you know, but that's going to be anywhere. So it's a possibility. I'm just saying, I wouldn't think, you know, I would have put it past them, is all I'm saying. It's already there, so it might be, you never know. So okay, this article, this is kind of like how Apple has, you know, iMessage or whatever with their little blue bubbles, and, you know, some people are real stuck up about that. But this, you know, this article is basically talks about an RCS chat system, so it's more of a encrypted way to communicate through text message, other than our, you know, the ones we have now. This will be more of a peer-to-peer. But it says Google is announcing that today, a year and a half after its first unveil RCS chat as Android primary texting platform, it is actually making RCS chat Android's primary texting platform. That's because it's rolling out availability to any Android user in the US who wants to use it starting today, and this came out yesterday. So it says RCS stands for Rich Communication Services, and is successor to SMS. Like another texting service, it supports read receipts, typing indicators, improved group chats, and high quality images. Unlike several texting apps like iMessage or Signal, it does not offer end-to-end encryption as an option. RCS is based on your phone number, so when you're texting with somebody who also has it, it should just turn on automatically in your chat. To get RCS, you simply need to use Android Message as your default texting app on your Android phone. says many Android phones do that already by default, but Samsung users will need to head to the Google Play Store to download it and then switch it to their default, which I have the S10, but I don't really care. It says Google is rolling out RCS incrementally as it often does with new features. Once you have Android messages, you should see an option to upgrade to enable chat features. Google says it will be lighting up that option up in the coming weeks, and a full rollout will be complete by the end of next year. It says iPhones do not support RCS, and over the past year, Apple has declined to comment on whether it ever will, multiple times. So here's a video on this. Like I said, after this video is uploaded, then I load all these links in the description below, and you guys can go through and read what I've talked about on here. So it's just another messaging app. It goes into who has it, what phone services is available on. Basically, if you have a Google phone, an Android phone, I guess, not a Google phone, but well, I guess it is a Google phone, but an Android phone, then you can use this RCS app. So the next article I'm going to talk about, and I talked about this a little bit last night, but I was kind of drained whenever I put out that live stream and it was echoing, and then I just re-downloaded a video at the same topics, but I kind of talked about this. So Amazon introduces glasses with Alexa capabilities, and basically they're just glasses you can wear around that it doesn't necessarily, this article doesn't necessarily go into what features it has, but there's some videos I've saw, and I don't know if they're concept videos or not, but basically you carry around your whole voice companion in your glasses, and I'm sure it projects stuff onto a lens. I compared it to Terminator last night, but I'll post this in the link. But so we can look forward to this. Now, if they do come out with something like this, I would look forward to law enforcement utilizing something like this, especially if they can run it to a database to where instead of you knowingly getting facial recognition ran on you through the cameras like they do in China and some communist countries, they could put on these glasses that are linked to their database and walk around and just scan hundreds, thousands of faces at a time, and then it locks on somebody who has a warrant out for their arrest, or is a known whatever criminal who's wanted. I mean, it is a possibility. It could happen. I wouldn't put it past technology, and especially I keep showing you the deals that major corporations are making with government entities, law enforcement agencies, and stuff like that. So pretty soon they're going to own all the papers. The corporations will be in the government's pocket, or vice versa. I mean, it's all going to be an infringement and control, and it's going to be control through what they offer as conveniences right now. Will eventually become needs and services, and they're going to be controlled, and they're going to control that by saying how and when you can buy, sell, and trade anything. The integration on your phone, and infringement, spying of all ways and forms. But those are my articles for today. I thought you guys might get a kick out of the picture. So I would look forward to possibly because and I didn't mention this, but there are some websites that you can use Bitcoin on. I think Newegg is one that, I mean, you don't even have to use cash. If you have a Bitcoin wallet and you want to purchase something, you can go to newegg.com and they accept Bitcoin. I would look forward to Amazon eventually probably starting to accept it. I mean, all the other criminals do. So I would look forward to all this stuff. But you know, it's like I say all the time. I just warn people, try to bring some awareness. This is the Kingsman Report. It's the news everyone ignores. And you can follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, DLive, and every podcast platform you can think of. This will go on there eventually as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off here. Tonight is my Sabbath, so Shabbat Shalom to those who keep Shabbos, and until next time, Yah bless to you guys, and Shalom. Take care.